Groovy.
PC エンジン512色スーパービジュアル6チャンネルリアルサウンドニューワールドを制覇する PC エンジン全開 NEC から
Hey everybody, Jim here with some more import game recommendations, and today we're going to be taking a look at these fine games for the PC Engine. And in the last PC Engine recommendations video I did, someone had asked about region locking for HuCards and CDs, and I remembered that HuCard games are region locked, but the CD games are not. So with that in mind, all of today's games are for the PC Engine CD, and they are region free, so they will work just fine with any TurboGrafx CD or Turbo Duo. And today's games are Nekketsu Koukou Dodgeball-bu CD Soccer Hen, kind of a mouthful, Hellfire S, Mystic Formula, Valis IV, and Asuka 120% Burning Fest Maxima. And with that out of the way, let's take a look at these games. First up, we have Nekketsu Koukou Dodgeball-bu CD Soccer Hen. And the easiest way to describe this game is that if you've played and enjoyed Nintendo World Cup on the NES, then you'll enjoy this game as well because it is the PC Engine CD port of Nintendo World Cup. So just like River City Ransom, this is a game in the Kunio-kun series that got a nice CD upgrade. It's a very fun and simple soccer game, obviously only using 2 buttons for passing and shooting as well as tackling. It's essentially a game of combat soccer, and there are no fouls called or anything like that, and there are different types of terrain to play on, from a standard soccer field to dirt fields and even an ice field, which will have all of your players slipping and sliding around, so it's definitely not your typical soccer game. At the start of each match and at halftime, you can manage your team, place players in whatever positions you like, or swap players in and out, and the single player mode is essentially a story mode where you play all of the other various teams in the game, or you can play versus with both 2 and 4 players, which is awesome. This game features some nicely improved graphics over the NES original and even includes some good-looking cutscenes featuring the various Kunio-kun characters, as well as a lot of voiceover work, and the soundtrack is really good. It's still the soundtrack from the original game, but punched up to CD quality, and it sounds great. So all around, this is a very enjoyable game. It's a lot of fun, and the graphics and sound are outstanding. It's also typically not a terribly expensive game. Copies can be found online for as little as $10 and up to as much as $40, so shop around a bit, and you should be able to find a good deal on this one. It's Nekketsu Koukou Dodgeball-bu CD Soccer Hen, and I like it a lot. Next up, we have Hellfire S, and this is another PC Engine CD port of a game that did get a stateside release, which is Hellfire on the Sega Genesis. So again, if you've played and enjoyed that game, you should enjoy this one too, probably more so as it features the same basic gameplay, but plenty of additional cutscenes and CD quality sound. For anyone who hasn't played it, Hellfire S is a side-scrolling shooter that allows you to switch between 4 different weapons on the fly, making it possible to fire your lasers in front of and behind you, as well as vertically and at an angle in all 4 directions. And as the stages progress and change, you can swap back and forth to suit the situation, and each stage ends with a boss battle, and they also require different strategies and swapping back and forth between your various weapons. This is a fairly slow-paced game, and I'd say it's actually one of the easier shooters on the PC Engine, but it is still very fun, and I do appreciate the ability to use multiple weapons and the variety in gameplay that brings. It's not quite the caliber of, say, Gate of Thunder or Soldier Blade, but it's definitely an enjoyable game. Also, the graphics are very nice, lots of color and detail, plenty of cool stage designs, as well as enemy and boss designs, and of course lots of anime-style cutscenes, as you might expect with this being a CD game. And on top of that, the sound design is great. I really enjoyed the soundtrack in this game. Lots of high-energy music and excellent sound quality, this being another game that took the original cartridge music and nicely arranged it for CD. So on the whole, this is a very well-made and fun shooter. I'd say it's definitely worth playing. It can be pretty pricey, however. Copies online typically go for $50 to $60, which is pretty steep, but if you're a collector of PC Engine shooters, you can do a lot worse than Hellfire S. Next, we have Mystic Formula, and this is a great game for fans of top-down run-and-gun titles like Commando and Ikari Warriors, though it definitely has its own unique feel to set itself apart from those games. It gives you 4 characters to choose from, each of which have their own unique attack, charge shot, and super bombs. There are plenty of power-ups scattered around each stage to collect, sometimes allowing you to bring in a secondary character for assistance. You can occasionally commandeer a mech suit, which provides you with some added firepower. There are segments where you'll jump into a vehicle and the gameplay transitions into something of a vertical shoot-'em-up, and you'll also be doing battle with some very large, monstrous boss characters. Overall, the gameplay in Mystic Formula is fun and challenging, definitely an enjoyable game, though I will say there are areas where the graphics suffer quite a bit. Some fairly ugly looking stages here and there, but at other times the stages actually look quite nice, so it's kind of a mixed bag as far as graphics go, but the cutscenes, as per usual, look very nice, and this is another game with a great soundtrack, lots of high energy CD quality music, and a lot of voice acting as well, which might not mean too much to you if you can't understand what's being said, but it still sounds nice nonetheless. So definitely a good game, but holy hell, was I surprised when I checked the price tag on this one. I bought it several months ago for about $10, and I thought I had a great bargain title to recommend to everybody, but checking online, I see it's going for at least $60 at a minimum, and up to and exceeding $100, and I'm not sure when or why the price went up so drastically. So if you want a copy, I'd say get it while supplies last. Mystic Formula, a good game, and one that's quickly shooting up in price. Next up, we have Valis IV, and you might be thinking to yourself that this is yet another CD port of a cartridge game. It'll be the exact same thing, except it'll have some cutscenes and CD quality music, but that's not 100% correct. There are obviously a lot of similarities between this and Super Valis IV for the SNES. It features the same basic story and gameplay. It's a side-scrolling action platformer, but instead of having only one playable character, this game gives you 3 different characters that you can switch between on the fly, and they each have their own unique attack and special abilities that make it easier for them to traverse some areas or defeat certain bosses. So in that way, it's more similar to Valis 3 on the PC Engine and Sega Mega Drive. There's lots of platforming to be done, enemies to be killed, power-ups to collect, and bosses to destroy. It's definitely an enjoyable game, and especially if you've played and enjoyed Super Valis IV, you should like this one too. And again, of course, you can expect plenty of anime-style cutscenes, some nice graphics, lots of voice acting, and a very good soundtrack, plenty of good tunes, and some excellent sound quality. All things considered, this is a decent game for sure, and it's still not terribly expensive, typically going for between 30 and 40 bucks online. So if you like a good action platformer with some anime stylings, Valis IV would be a great choice. Definitely check it out and pick it up if it looks good to you. Finally, we have Asuka 120% Maxima Burning Fest, which is just one of many games in the Asuka series of 2D fighters, which also has releases on the Sega Saturn and PlayStation. And I chose this game for a couple of reasons. One is that there are precious few 2D fighters on the PC Engine, despite the fact that it can handle them pretty well, and because this is a very affordable game as well, especially considering that it's a pretty decent fighter. It's well worth the 10 or 20 bucks you'll shell out for it. It features some fairly fast-paced gameplay and responsive controls. You get a colorful cast of 10 playable characters to choose from, and they all have an array of combos and special attacks. And if you're a fan of the all-girl 2D fighting genre, then you'll like this game. It's one of the pioneers of the genre, along with games like Variable Geo. The graphics are pretty good, all things considered. It's an exceptionally colorful game, and it features a heavy anime art style. The sound design is also great. The soundtrack is very enjoyable, and that's a running theme in this video. 100% awesome soundtracks. This game only features 2 gameplay modes, however, the single-player story and 2-player versus, so there's no training mode or team battle or anything like that. But because it is a decent playing fighter, and because there are so few of them, and because it's very affordable, I can forgive its shortcomings. Again, a quick check online has copies for $10 to $20, which isn't much at all considering how expensive some PC Engine CD games have gotten recently, especially some of the later releases. So if you're in the market for a fun, colorful fighter with an outstanding soundtrack and a reasonable price tag for your PC Engine CD or Turbo Duo, Asuka 120% Maxima Burning Fest is right up your alley. Check it out. So there you go, 5 import PC Engine CD games. I hope you saw something you liked. And let me know down in the comments what some of your favorite import PC Engine games are, or what are some on your wish list. I'd like to know. That helps me when I'm deciding what games to feature in future videos. And until next time, thanks for watching everybody. Take care. Goodbye.